His hand grabbed her hair like she was garbage. Preston Whitmore III slammed Lily Martinez's face into the diner table so hard the coffee cups jumped. Blood sprayed across the white linen napkins. The entire restaurant froze. "Servants need to learn their place." Preston laughed, still gripping her hair. "Look at this trash-spilled sauce on my $1,000 shoes." Lily couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. 23 years old single mother working double shifts to save her daughter's life. And this monster was destroying her in front of everyone. Nobody helped. Nobody moved. Then the door swung open. A Navy SEAL and his 90-pound German Shepherd stepped inside. The bully had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Subscribe now and follow this story to the end. Comment your city below. I want to see how far this story travels. Now let's continue. Lily's morning had started like every other morning for the past 2 years. She woke at 4:47 a.m., 13 minutes before her alarm, because her body had learned that rest was a luxury she couldn't afford. Rosa was still sleeping in the bed they shared, her small chest rising and falling with the fragile rhythm that kept Lily awake most nights. The doctors had explained it simply: Rosa needed surgery. Without it, her heart would give out before her 7th birthday. The cost was $200,000. Lily had $847 in savings. "Mama!" Rosa's eyes fluttered open, that beautiful brown that reminded Lily so much of Daniel. Her husband, gone 2 years now, killed in a construction accident that never felt accidental. "Go back to sleep, baby. Mama has to work." "Can I come to the diner today?" "Not today, mi amor. Grandma Martha will take care of you." "I miss watching you work." Lily kissed her daughter's forehead, feeling the slight fever that never quite went away. "Soon. I promise." She didn't know if she could keep that promise. She didn't know if she could keep any of her promises anymore. The walk to the Coastal Light Diner took 17 minutes. Lily had timed it down to the second, because every minute mattered. Every minute was money. Every minute was Rosa's heartbeat. The morning shift started slow. Regulars filtered in, fishermen wanting coffee before dawn, night workers grabbing breakfast after their shifts. Lily knew them all by name. Tom Henderson, who always ordered eggs over easy and left exactly $2,037 tip. Maria Santos, the night nurse, who was too tired to talk but always smiled. Old Pete, who nursed a single cup of coffee for 3 hours and told stories about the town before the Whitmore family arrived. "You look tired, mija," said Gloria, the cook who had worked at the diner for 30 years. "You need to rest." "I'll rest when Rosa's healthy." "That's what your mama said. God rest her soul." Lily didn't respond. Her mother had worked herself to death in this same diner, serving the same ungrateful customers, chasing the same impossible dream of a better life. Some days, Lily felt like she was walking in her footsteps toward the same end. The morning rush came and went. By 11 a.m., the diner had settled into its usual lull: half-empty booths, quiet conversations, the smell of coffee and bacon grease hanging in the air like a comfortable fog. That's when the sports car pulled up. Lily heard it before she saw it, a roar of engine that didn't belong in Crescent Bay. Through the window she watched a cherry-red convertible slide into the parking lot, like a drop of blood on clean sheets. "Trouble," Gloria muttered from the kitchen window. "Maybe they're just passing through." Nobody passes through Crescent Bay in a car like that. The door swung open and Lily understood what Gloria meant. The man who walked in was young mid-20s, but he carried himself like he owned the world. And in Crescent Bay, his family basically did. Preston Whitmore III. She'd seen him on the news, in the society pages, in the nightmares of everyone who had ever crossed the Whitmore family. Behind him came a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect sneer of disgust as she looked around the diner. "God, Preston, this place is disgusting." Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. "I told you we should have stopped at the country club." "Relax, Vanessa. We're slumming it. Consider it an adventure." They chose the booth in the center of the restaurant, the one with the best view, the one where everyone could see them. Preston snapped his fingers at Lily like she was a dog. "You, waitress, service." Lily approached with her order pad, her smile practiced and professional. "Good afternoon. Welcome to Coastal Light. Can I get you started with—" Skip the script. Preston didn't look at her. He was scrolling through his phone. "2 espressos. Make sure they're hot, and whatever passes for a decent steak in this dump." "We don't serve espresso, sir. We have regular coffee and—" "Then get us regular coffee, and try not to screw it up." Vanessa laughed a brittle sound like breaking glass. "Honestly, Preston, the help in these places is always so incompetent." Lily's hands shook slightly as she wrote the order. She thought about Rosa, about the surgery, about the $847 in savings that wouldn't grow if she lost this job. "I'll have your coffee right out." She turned to leave, but Preston's voice stopped her. "Wait." Lily turned back. Preston was finally looking at her, his eyes moving up and down her body in a way that made her skin crawl. "You're actually not bad looking, for a townie." He smiled, showing too many teeth. "What's your name?" "Lily, sir." "Lily. Like the flower." Preston leaned back in his booth. "Tell me, Lily, do you know who I am?" "Yes, sir." "Then you know my family owns this building. We own most of this town, actually." He paused, letting that sink in. "That means I own you, at least while you're on the clock. So I'd suggest you do everything in your power to keep me happy." Vanessa giggled. He's not joking. The last waitress who upset him lost her job and her apartment in the same week. Lily felt something cold settle in her stomach. "I'll get your coffee." She walked to the counter, her legs unsteady. Gloria was watching through the kitchen window, her face dark with anger. "I know those people," Gloria said quietly. "His father Harrison is the devil himself. The son is worse." "What do you mean?" 3 years ago, a girl in Portland accused Preston of assault. She was a waitress too. The Whitmores destroyed her life, got her fired, evicted her name, dragged through the mud until she couldn't show her face anywhere. "What happened to her?" Gloria's silence was answer enough. Lily poured the coffee. Her hands steadier now. She had dealt with difficult customers before. She had survived worse than entitled rich kids. She just had to get through this shift, get her paycheck, and go home to Rosa. She carried the coffee to the table, placing each cup carefully in front of the customers. "Here you are. I'll have your steaks out shortly." Preston picked up his cup, took a sip, and immediately spat it back. "This is cold." "Sir, I just poured it from a fresh pot." "Are you calling me a liar?" "No, I'm just saying." "I said it's cold." Preston's voice rose, drawing attention from the other tables. "Are you too stupid to understand simple English? Maybe that's why you're working in a place like this." Tom Henderson, the fisherman, stood up from his booth. "Hey, now there's no need for that kind of talk. Sit down, old man. This doesn't concern you." "It concerns me when someone talks to a lady that way." Preston laughed. "A lady. She's a waitress. She's furniture with legs." Lily put her hand on Tom's arm. "It's okay, Mr. Henderson. I'll get fresh coffee." "Lily. Please, it's fine." She went back to the counter, her face burning. Gloria had already poured a fresh cup. "Don't let him see you cry," Gloria whispered. "That's what he wants." Lily took a breath, steadied herself, and returned to the table. "Fresh coffee, sir." Preston took the cup without a word. Vanessa was examining her manicure, bored with the whole exchange. The steaks came out 10 minutes later. Lily served them with perfect form, her smile locked in place. Preston cut into his meat, chewed, and made a face. "Overcooked." "Sir, you ordered it well done." "I didn't order shoe leather. Take it back." "I can have the kitchen prepare a new one." "Don't bother. This whole place is a waste of time." Preston shoved the plate away. "Just bring the check." Lily calculated quickly. The coffee, the steaks, they wouldn't eat the bill, came to $47.50. She placed it on the table. Preston looked at it and laughed. $50 for garbage food and terrible service. He pulled out his wallet. Lily saw the thick stack of hundreds inside and dropped 2 20s on the table. That's what this meal was worth, and you can forget about a tip. The bill was $47.50. He'd left $40. Sir, the bill is... I know what the bill is. I'm telling you what I'm willing to pay. But I'll have to cover the difference out of my own wages. Then maybe next time you'll do a better job. Lily felt something snap inside her. 2 years of double shifts. 2 years of abuse from customers who saw her as less than human. 2 years of watching her daughter get sicker while the medical bills piled up. Sir, I have a daughter who needs surgery. Every dollar matters. Please. Did I ask about your life story? Preston stood up, towering over her. I don't care about your daughter. I don't care about your problems. You're a waitress in a nowhere town, and you'll never be anything more. Preston. Vanessa tugged at his arm, looking bored. Let's just go. Not yet. This one needs to learn respect. He picked up the coffee cup, the one he'd said was cold, and poured it slowly over the table, letting it drip onto the floor. Clean that up. Lily stared at him. I said clean it up. On your knees. No. The word came out before she could stop it. A lifetime of submission, of keeping her head down, of swallowing her pride, and now finally something broke. Preston's face went red. What did you say to me? I said no. I'm not your slave. I'm a human being, and I deserve to be treated like one. The slap came so fast she didn't see it. One moment she was standing, the next her cheek was on fire and she was stumbling backward into an empty booth. You little... Preston grabbed her hair, his fingers tangling in the ponytail she wore for work. He yanked her forward, and she screamed as her scalp burned. Preston! Vanessa's voice was sharp, but not with concern, with annoyance. Not here, you idiot! She needs to learn. And then he did it. He slammed Lily's face into the table. The impact was like nothing she'd ever felt. Her nose crunched. Blood exploded across the white napkins. Stars burst behind her eyes. Preston was laughing, actually laughing. See, that's how you discipline the help. Lily couldn't breathe, couldn't see. All she could think was Rosa. Rosa. Who will take care of Rosa? Tom. Henderson was on his feet, but 2 of Preston's bodyguards, Lily hadn't even noticed them come in, blocked his path. Gloria was screaming something from the kitchen. The other customers sat frozen, too terrified to move. This is how I die, Lily thought. In a diner. On a Tuesday. Because a rich boy wanted to feel powerful. Then the door opened. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Lily couldn't see clearly through the blood and tears, but she could make out a shape in the doorway. A man. Huge. And beside him, something else. Something that growled low and dangerous. Let her go. The voice was quiet. Calm. The voice of a man who didn't need to raise his volume to be heard. Preston's grip on her hair loosened slightly. Who the hell are you? I said let her go. I won't ask again. Preston released Lily's hair with a shove that sent her collapsing to the floor. She lay there gasping, watching through a haze of pain as the confrontation unfolded. The man who had spoken stepped forward. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with shoulders that seemed to fill the entire aisle. His face was hard-weathered, the face of someone who had seen things most people couldn't imagine. But it was the dog that made Preston take a step back. The German Shepherd was massive, easily 90 pounds of muscle and teeth. Its coat was black and tan, its eyes amber and intelligent, and it was staring at Preston with the focused intensity of a predator that had found its prey. Nice dog, Preston said, trying to recover his composure. But I think you should mind your own business, soldier boy. My business is making sure people like you don't hurt people like her. People like me, Preston laughed, though there was a tremor in it now. Do you know who I am? Do you know who my father is? I know exactly who you are. Preston Whitmore III. 3 assault allegations all settled out of court. 1 victim dead by suicide. And Daddy's money cleaned it all up. Preston's face went pale. How do you... I know things. It's my job. The man took another step forward. Now here's what's going to happen. You're going to pay your full bill plus $100 tip. You're going to apologize to this woman. And then you're going to leave this town and never come back. Or what? The German shepherd growled, and the sound was like distant thunder. Or Titan and I are going to have a very bad day. And when we have bad days, other people tend to end up in hospitals. For a moment, the diner was silent. Then Preston did something that surprised everyone. He laughed. You're threatening me in my own town. He pulled out his phone. Let's see how brave you are when the sheriff gets here. He dialed, put the phone to his ear, and smiled. Dad, there's some hick at the diner making threats. Send Sheriff Donovan. A pause. Yes, now. He hung up and looked at the stranger with triumph. 5 minutes. That's how long you have to run before you spend the next 10 years in prison. The man didn't move. I don't run. 4 minutes and 37 seconds later, a police cruiser pulled into the parking lot. Sheriff Wade Donovan walked into the diner like he owned it, which in a sense he did. The Whitmores paid his salary just as surely as the county did. What seems to be the problem here? Preston pointed at the stranger. This man threatened me. Assault, intimidation. I want him arrested. Donovan looked at the man with the dog. His eyes narrowed. Military, Navy SEAL. Currently on leave. That explains the dog. Combat veteran. 3 tours. Afghanistan. Donovan nodded slowly. There was something like respect in his eyes, or maybe just caution. Look, friend. I don't know what happened here, but this is a Whitmore matter. Best thing you can do is get in your truck and keep driving. Can't do that, Sheriff. Why not? Because that man assaulted this woman. I saw him slam her face into the table. That's felony assault. Donovan glanced at Lily, who was still on the floor, blood streaming from her nose. That true? Before Lily could answer, Preston spoke. She's a clumsy waitress who tripped. Ask anyone. Donovan looked around the diner. At Tom Henderson, who was being held back by bodyguards. At Gloria, watching from the kitchen with fury in her eyes. At the other customers, who couldn't meet his gaze. Anyone see what happened? Silence. That's how it always worked. The Whitmores asked a question, and the town gave the answer they wanted to hear. See? Preston smiled. Accident. Now arrest this man for threatening me. Donovan turned to the stranger. I'm going to have to ask you to leave, sir. And if I don't, then I'll have to place you under arrest for disorderly conduct. The man was quiet for a moment. Titan sat perfectly still at his side, awaiting command. Then the stranger did something no one expected. He sat down. He slid into the nearest booth, signaled to Gloria, and said, Coffee, black. Everyone stared. What are you doing? Donovan demanded. I'm having coffee. It's a public establishment. Unless there's a law against veterans getting breakfast. You can't just... I am. He looked at Preston. I'm not going anywhere. And neither are you until you apologize to that woman. Preston's face was crimson with rage. Do you have any idea what I can do to you? I will destroy your life. I will have you dishonorably discharged. I will make sure you never work again. Preston! Donovan's voice was sharp. Let's just go. This isn't worth it. Not until he learns his place. Preston! The shout came from the door. An older man stood there, 50s, silver hair, expensive suit. Harrison Whitmore himself, the real power behind the throne. What is going on here? This soldier. I can see what's going on. Harrison's eyes swept the room, taking in everything his son, the bloody waitress, the stranger with the dog, the terrified customers. Sheriff, why hasn't this been handled? I was just, get everyone out. Clear the diner. This conversation is over. Donovan started herding customers toward the door. Tom Henderson resisted until a bodyguard shoved him outside. Gloria was pulled from the kitchen, still screaming protests. Within minutes, the diner was empty, except for the Whitmores, the stranger, and Lily still on the floor, forgotten. Harrison approached the stranger's booth, his expression carefully neutral. I don't believe we've met. Jackson Stone. Military. Navy SEAL commander. Retired as of 3 weeks ago. Commander. Harrison nodded slowly. That's impressive. And the dog? Titan. Retired military working dog. He's got more combat experience than most generals. Harrison pulled out a chair and sat across from Jackson. It was a power move, putting them on equal ground, or at least pretending to. Mr. Stone, I think there's been a misunderstanding. My son can be enthusiastic, but I'm sure we can come to some arrangement. I'm not interested in arrangements. Everyone is interested in arrangements. It's just a matter of finding the right price. Harrison pulled out a checkbook. How much would it take for you to get back in your truck and forget this ever happened? Jackson was quiet for a moment. Then he looked past Harrison to where Lily lay on the floor, blood still dripping from her broken nose. She has a daughter, Jackson said quietly. 5 years old, heart condition, needs surgery she can't afford. Touching. What's your point? My point is that you and your son are going to pay for that surgery. You're going to pay Lily here a year's salary and damages, and your son is going to write a public apology that gets printed in every newspaper in Oregon. Harrison laughed. Or what? Or I'm going to make it my personal mission to destroy everything you've built. I'm going to dig into every shady deal, every bribed official, every body you've buried. And I'm going to make sure the whole world knows exactly what kind of monsters the Whitmore family really are. The laughter died on Harrison's lips. You don't know what you're dealing with. I've dealt with worse. Taliban, ISIS, drug cartels in Colombia. Jackson leaned forward. You're just a rich bully in a small town. I've eaten scarier things for breakfast. Harrison's face hardened. You'll regret this. Maybe, but I doubt it. Harrison stood straightening his jacket. Preston, we're leaving. He looked down at Jackson one more time. This isn't over, Commander Stone. No, it's not. The Whitmores swept out, taking their bodyguards and the sheriff with them. The door slammed shut, and the diner fell silent. Jackson sat for a moment processing. Then he rose and crossed to where Lily still lay on the floor. Can you sit up? Lily tried to speak, but her mouth was full of blood. She spat, coughed, and managed to nod. Jackson helped her into a booth, his hands surprisingly gentle for someone so large. Titan moved to sit beside her, his massive head resting against her leg in what seemed like comfort. I'm going to call an ambulance. No. Lily's voice was raspy. Can't afford it. It's not optional. Your nose is broken. I said no. She tried to stand, swayed, and would have fallen if Jackson hadn't caught her. I have to get back to work. Rosa needs... Rosa is your daughter. Lily nodded, tears mixing with the blood on her face. She's sick. She needs surgery. Every shift I work is money toward... Her voice broke. He's going to get me fired. Harrison Whitmore owns this building. He's going to get me fired, and then Rosa... She couldn't finish. Jackson guided her back to the seat, his expression unreadable. What's wrong with your daughter? Her heart. She was born with a defect. The doctors say without surgery. Lily couldn't say the words. She's 5 years old. She's all I have left. Titan whined softly, pressing closer to Lily. The dog seemed to sense her distress, her desperation. Where do you live? Why? Because I'm going to drive you home. And then I'm going to figure out how to fix this. You can't fix this. Nobody can fix this. The Whitmores. The Whitmores are bullies, and I've been dealing with bullies my whole life. Lily looked at this stranger, this mountain of a man with his scarred hands and haunted eyes and massive dog. She didn't know him. She had no reason to trust him. But for the first time in 2 years, she felt something she'd almost forgotten how to feel. Hope. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care?" Jackson was quiet for a long moment. "I had a team," he finally said. 6 men. We went through hell together. 3 of them died in an explosion 2 months ago. I couldn't save them. His hand found Titan's head, stroking the fur gently. "This dog is the only reason I'm still alive. He detected the bomb, saved my life, lost 3 of his brothers doing it." Jackson looked at Lily, and she saw something in his eyes: pain, guilt, determination. "I couldn't save my team, but maybe I can save you and your daughter. Maybe that's why I stopped here. Maybe that's the point." Lily didn't know what to say, so she just nodded, and together they walked out of the diner into the harsh afternoon sun, leaving behind blood-stained napkins and the echoes of a battle that was just beginning. Because Harrison Whitmore had been right about one thing. This wasn't over. It was only the beginning. Martha Martinez had seen trouble before. She'd marched with Cesar Chavez in the 70s, faced down riot police with nothing but a prayer and her convictions. She'd buried her daughter, raised her granddaughter, and watched the world change in ways she never imagined. But she'd never seen her Lily like this. "Mija, what happened to your face?" Lily stood in the doorway of the small house on Elm Street, her nose swollen, her eyes blackened her spirit, something Martha didn't recognize. Behind her stood a man, a giant of a man with haunted eyes and a dog that looked like it had walked through war. "Abuela, this is Jackson. He helped me." "Helped you? You look like you were hit by a truck." "Oh, Whitmore." Martha's face hardened. "Which one?" "The son, Preston." "Dios mío." Martha crossed herself. "Come inside. Both of you." The house was small but clean, filled with photographs of better times. Lily as a child, Lily at her wedding, Rosa as a baby. Jackson noticed the medical bills stacked on the kitchen table, the worn furniture, the careful poverty of people who stretched every dollar until it screamed. "Mama! Mama!" Rosa came running from the bedroom, her small face lighting up at the sight of her mother. Then she saw the blood, the bruises, and her smile crumbled. "What happened? Why are you hurt?" Lily dropped to her knees, pulling her daughter close. "It's nothing, baby. Mama had an accident at work." "You're bleeding." I know, but I'm okay. I promise." Rosa looked past her mother to the stranger filling their doorway. Her eyes went wide when she saw Titan. "Is that a wolf?" Despite everything, Jackson almost smiled. "He's a dog. His name is Titan. Can I pet him?" Jackson looked at Lily, who nodded slightly. "Titan, friend." The German shepherd's posture immediately relaxed. He padded forward and lay down in front of Rosa, his tail wagging gently. "He's so big." Rosa reached out tentatively, her small hand disappearing into Titan's thick fur. "He's soft." "He likes you." "How can you tell?" "He's not growling. Trust me, you'd know if he didn't like you." Martha watched this exchange with sharp eyes. She'd spent 78 years reading people, and this man was harder to read than most. "You military?" "Yes, ma'am. Navy SEAL." "Active?" "Retired, 3 weeks ago." "And you just happened to be in our diner when my granddaughter got attacked." "I was passing through, stopped for coffee." "Passing through to where?" "Seattle. My mother is dying. Cancer." Martha studied him for a long moment, then she nodded. "Sit down. I'll make coffee. Real coffee, not that swill they serve at the diner." Jackson sat at the kitchen table while Martha worked. Lily had taken Rosa to the bathroom to clean up the little girl, insisting on helping, even though there wasn't much she could do. "You know who the Whitmores are?" Martha asked her back to him. "I know enough." "No, you don't." Martha poured the coffee and sat across from him. Harrison Whitmore came to this town 40 years ago. He bought up everything: the docks, the cannery, the commercial buildings. Said he was going to revitalize the community. Instead, he strangled it. How? He raised rents until the local businesses couldn't survive, bought them out for pennies, replaced them with his own operations. Anyone who resisted. Martha shook her head. There were accidents, fires. People left in the middle of the night and never came back. Sounds like organized crime. Sounds like capitalism to me, just the ruthless kind. Martha took a sip of her coffee. Lily's husband Daniel, he worked construction for a Whitmore company. 2 years ago, he fell off a scaffold. They said it was his own fault that he wasn't wearing a safety harness. Was he? Daniel was the most careful man I ever knew. He had a wife and a sick baby at home. He would never take that risk. Martha's voice hardened. But nobody investigated. The sheriff ruled it an accident. The insurance paid out half what it should have. And Lily was left alone with a dying child and nothing but questions. Jackson processed this information. He'd seen corruption before in war zones, in failing states, in places where the rule of law was just a suggestion. But this was America. This was supposed to be different. What did Daniel know? Martha looked at him sharply. What makes you think he knew anything? Because accidents that convenient usually aren't accidents. If he saw something, heard something. He told Lily once that he'd seen things on the job site. Whitmore people meeting with men who didn't belong there. Money changing hands. He wanted to report it, but Lily begged him not to. She knew what the Whitmores did to people who talked. And then he died. And then he died. The bathroom door opened, and Lily emerged with Rosa. The little girl had insisted on putting bandages on her mother's face, mismatched cartoon characters stuck haphazardly over cuts that didn't need them. "Mama's all better now," Rosa announced proudly. "She certainly is," Jackson said. Lily's phone buzzed. She looked at it, and her face went pale. "What is it?" "A text from Harold, my boss." She held up the phone so Jackson could see. "Don't bother coming in tomorrow." Whitmore called, "You're done." Lily sank into a chair, her hands shaking. "They fired me. They actually fired me." "Can they do that?" Jackson asked. "They can do anything they want. Harrison owns the building. If Harold doesn't comply, he loses his lease." Lily's voice cracked. "I needed that job. Rosa's surgery." "Mama," Rosa tugged at her sleeve. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, baby. Nothing's wrong." "Then why are you crying?" Martha stood up, her face set with determination. "Rosa, come help Abuela in the garden. The tomatoes need watering." "But I want to stay with Mama." "Now, child." Something in Martha's tone brooked no argument. Rosa cast one more worried look at her mother, then followed her great-grandmother outside. When they were gone, Lily broke down completely. "I don't know what to do. I have $847 in savings. The surgery costs $200,000. I was going to work double shifts for the next 2 years, save every penny." She buried her face in her hands. "And now I have nothing. Nothing." Jackson sat across from her, unsure what to say. He'd been trained to handle enemy combatants' IEDs, impossible missions in hostile territory. But a crying mother facing the death of her child, that wasn't in any manual. "I should go." Lily looked up. "What?" "I was just passing through. This isn't my fight. I should get back on the road and leave us to face the Whitmores alone." It wasn't an accusation. It was just a statement of fact. She wasn't asking him to stay. She was simply acknowledging that he was leaving. And something about that, the resignation in her voice, the lack of expectation, hit Jackson harder than any plea could have. He thought about his team. Rodriguez, who had a daughter he'd never see grow up. Chen, who was 3 weeks from retirement. Martinez, who had joined the Navy to escape a gang-controlled neighborhood and ended up dying in a desert thousands of miles from home. He couldn't save them. No matter how many times he replayed that day in his head, he couldn't change what happened. But maybe he could save someone else. I'm not leaving. Lily stared at him. What? I said I'm not leaving. Not yet. Jackson stood up. The Whitmores think they can do whatever they want because nobody's ever stood up to them. Well, they haven't met me. You don't understand what they're capable of. I've faced worse. Taliban commanders who skinned prisoners alive. Drug lords who dissolved their enemies in acid. A rich family in a small town. Jackson shook his head. They're amateurs. They'll destroy you. They can try. Titan rose from where he'd been lying by the door, moving to stand beside Jackson. The dog seemed to sense the shift in his master's mood, the transition from observer to combatant. Do you have somewhere I can stay? Jackson asked. A motel, A. There's only one motel in town. The Whitmores own it. Of course they do. You can stay here. The words were out of Lily's mouth before she could stop them. We have a couch. It's not much, but it's enough. That night, Jackson slept on a couch that was too small for his frame, Titan curled on the floor beside him. He dreamed of Afghanistan. The explosion, the screaming, the blood, and woke at 3 a.m. with his heart pounding and his hand reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. Titan was awake, instantly pressing his body against Jackson's legs. Easy, buddy. Just a dream. But the dog's ears were pricked forward, his attention fixed on the front window. Jackson rose silently, moving to the curtain's edge. In the darkness outside, he could see a shape, a black SUV parked across the street, its engine off, its interior dark. They were being watched. Jackson smiled grimly. Good. Let them watch. Let them see what was coming. Morning brought new horrors. Lily woke to find her car a 15-year-old Toyota that had been her husband's vandalized beyond recognition. The word trash was spray-painted across the hood in bright red letters. All 4 tires were slashed. The windows were smashed. She stood in the driveway staring at the wreckage, unable to move. They did this last night. Jackson's voice came from behind her. The SUV I saw. Why, I didn't do anything to them. You stood up. That's enough. I didn't stand up. You did. And they're punishing you because they can't get to me. Jackson's jaw tightened. This is my fault. No. Lily turned to face him. This is their fault. The Whitmores. They're the ones who did this. Rosa appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas. Mama. What happened to the car? Lily forced a smile. Some bad people made a mess, baby. But it's okay. We'll fix it. Who would do that? I don't know, sweetheart. Go back inside with Abuela. When Rosa was gone, Lily's composure cracked. That car was all I had left of Daniel. He bought it for me when we got married. He said... Her voice broke. He said as long as I had that car, I'd never be stranded. I'd always be able to get home. Jackson didn't know what to say. He wasn't good at comfort. Years of military service had stripped away the soft parts of him, leaving only the hard edges of a man built for war. But he could do something else. I'm going to find out who did this, he said. And they're going to pay. How the sheriff works for the Whitmores. No one in this town will help us. Then I'll find help outside this town. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number he knew by heart. Rodriguez. It's Stone. Yeah, I know it's early. Listen, I need a favor. I need you to dig into a family called Whitmore. Harrison Whitmore, based in Crescent Bay, Oregon. Everything you can find, financials, legal history, any skeletons they might be hiding. A pause. Yeah, I know I'm supposed to be on leave, but something came up. I'll explain later. Just get me that information. He hung up and turned to Lily. Rodriguez is my intelligence guy. If there's dirt on the Whitmores, he'll find it. And then what? Then we use it. The day passed slowly, filled with small cruelties. Martha went to the grocery store and was told her credit was no longer accepted. The pharmacy where Lily filled Rosa's prescriptions called to say they could no longer provide medication on her payment plan, Someone had flagged her account as high risk. Every door that opened slammed shut. Every friend who might have helped suddenly couldn't be reached. "They're isolating us," Jackson observed. "Cutting off our support system. Classic siege warfare." "Siege warfare. We're not soldiers." "You are now." Around noon, Tom Henderson appeared at the door. The old fisherman looked 10 years older than he had the day before. "I tried to file a report," he said without preamble, "about what happened at the diner. Sheriff Donovan wouldn't take it. Said it was a private matter between employer and employee. That's obstruction of justice. That's Crescent Bay." Tom looked at Lily with sad eyes. "I'm sorry, honey. I wanted to help yesterday, but those guards—" "I know, Mr. Henderson, it's not your fault." "It is my fault. I've watched the Whitmores run this town for 30 years, and I never did a damn thing about it. None of us did." He turned to Jackson. "But you stood up. Nobody's ever done that before." "Someone should have." "Yeah, someone should have." Tom straightened his shoulders. "I talked to some of the other fishermen. Some of us are old enough to remember what this town was like before the Whitmores came. We're not soldiers like you, but if you need help, I'll let you know." After Tom left, Jackson's phone buzzed. "Rodriguez. What do you have?" The information came in a flood. Harrison Whitmore's business dealings, property acquisitions, court cases that had been settled out of court with suspicious frequency. And then Rodriguez said something that made Jackson's blood run cold. "There's more, Commander, about the son. Preston. He's got a pattern. 3 assault allegations in the past 5 years, all involving women in service positions, waitresses, hotel staff, flight attendants. All of them were paid off." "That matches what I saw." "But there's one that wasn't paid off. A college student named Sarah Chen. She accused Preston of assault 2 years ago, refused to take the settlement money. What happened to her?" A long pause. "She's dead, Commander. Suicide. 6 months after she filed the charges, she threw herself off a bridge." Jackson felt something cold settle in his gut. "The case? Dismissed. No defendant to prosecute. And Preston? Back to his normal life. No consequences whatsoever." Jackson hung up and stood in silence for a long moment. Lily was watching him, her face worried. "What is it? What did he say?" "Preston Whitmore has done this before, multiple times. One of his victims killed herself." Lily's hand went to her mouth. "Oh, God. He's not going to stop, Lily. People like him never stop. They just keep hurting people until someone stops them. And you think you can stop him? I have to try." That night, Jackson sat on the porch while Lily put Rosa to bed. Titan lay at his feet, ears alert to every sound. The black SUV was back parked in its usual spot across the street. Jackson raised his hand and waved at it. Let them know he saw them. Let them know he wasn't afraid. The SUV's engine started. Its headlights flicked on, and then it pulled away, disappearing into the darkness. "They're scared of you." Jackson turned. Martha had appeared on the porch, a shawl wrapped around her shoulders. "They should be. Harrison Whitmore hasn't been scared of anything in 40 years. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe he needs to remember what fear feels like." Martha sat in the rocking chair beside him. "You remind me of someone I knew a long time ago, a man who stood up to power and paid the price for it. Cesar Chavez. My husband. He died fighting for farm workers' rights in 1976, shot by a man who was never caught." Martha's voice was steady, but her eyes glistened. "I've been fighting ever since. Not with guns or fists, but with faith. Faith that eventually justice would come. Do you still believe that? Most days, some days it's harder." She looked at him. "But then, someone like you walks through the door, and I remember why I keep going." Jackson didn't know what to say to that. He wasn't a hero. He was just a soldier looking for a purpose. Titan suddenly stood up, his body rigid. "What is it, boy?" The dog was staring at the side of the house, his ears flat against his head. Jackson rose silently, his hand dropping to the knife at his belt, old habit, hard to break. "Stay here." He moved around the corner of the house, his footsteps silent on the grass. A figure was crouched by the back door, doing something to the lock. Jackson crossed the distance in 3 strides, his hand closing on the intruder's collar and yanking him upright. "Don't move!" The intruder struggled, but Jackson's grip was iron. "Who sent you?" "I don't know what you're talking about." Jackson slammed him against the wall. "Try again." "Okay. Okay." The man's voice cracked. "It was Whitmore. He hired me to..." "To what?" "To deliver a message." Jackson saw it then, a piece of paper clutched in the man's hand. He grabbed it, releasing the intruder, who immediately scrambled away. "Titan." The German shepherd appeared from the darkness, positioning himself between Jackson and the fleeing man. "Let him go." Titan relaxed, and the intruder disappeared into the night. Jackson unfolded the paper. In the glow from the porch light, he could read the typed message, "Leave town, or the waitress pays. This is your only warning." Jackson smiled grimly. He pulled a pen from his pocket, wrote his own message below the threat, and walked into the house to get his truck keys. 20 minutes later, he parked outside the Whitmore estate and taped the note to their mailbox. His addition was simple: "I don't run." The retaliation came faster than expected. The next morning, Jackson walked into town to get supplies, leaving Titan with Lily and her family for protection. On his way back, 4 men stepped out of an alley blocking his path. They wore suits, but they moved like soldiers. Private security. Professionals. "Mr. Whitmore wants you gone," the lead man said. "Last chance to do this the easy way." Jackson set down his grocery bags. "And the hard way?" "The hard way is painful." "For who?" The lead man smiled. "Cute. 4 against 1 and you're still talking tough. I've faced worse odds. In the desert maybe. But this isn't a war zone, soldier boy. This is..." Jackson moved. The first man went down before he could finish his sentence, a strike to the throat that dropped him choking to the pavement. The second man swung, but Jackson caught his arm and twisted, using the man's momentum to throw him into the third attacker. The fourth man pulled a knife. Jackson didn't even slow down. He caught the knife hand, broke the wrist with a precise twist, and swept the man's legs out from under him. The knife clattered away as Jackson drove his knee into the man's solar plexus. 4 men. 7 seconds. Jackson straightened, barely breathing hard. The lead man was on his hands and knees, gasping for air. Jackson crouched beside him. "Tell Whitmore something for me." The man looked up, fear replacing the earlier arrogance. "Tell him I'm just getting started." He picked up his groceries and walked home, leaving 4 professional security operatives groaning in the alley behind him. Word spread fast. By evening, everyone in Crescent Bay knew what had happened. The story grew with each telling. 4 men became 6, then 8. Jackson's fighting style became legendary, mythological. But the Whitmores weren't impressed. They were furious. Jackson was sitting on the porch that night when headlights appeared at the end of the street. Not a black SUV this time. A convoy. 3 vehicles moving slowly, deliberately. They stopped in front of the house. Men emerged, a dozen of them, maybe more. They formed a semicircle around the property, their faces hard, their intentions clear. The lead vehicle's door opened, and Preston Whitmore stepped out. "Commander Stone." His voice carried across the yard. "My father wanted to handle this quietly, but I convinced him that some problems require a more direct approach." Jackson rose from his chair. Titan appeared at his side, hackles raised, a growl building in his throat. "You brought a lot of people for a conversation." "This isn't a conversation. This is a demonstration." Preston gestured to his men. "You embarrassed my security team today. made them look like amateurs. So I brought more. A lot more. Still not enough. Preston's smile faltered. You can't fight all of them. Maybe not. But I can fight you. Jackson stepped off the porch, moving toward Preston. The security men tensed hands, moving toward weapons. Think about what you're doing, Preston warned. You attack me, they attack you, and then they attack everyone in that house. Jackson stopped. That's right. Preston's confidence returned. You're not just fighting for yourself, you're fighting for them, the waitress, the old woman, the little girl with the bad heart. Leave them out of this. I would have, if you'd left when I told you to. Preston stepped closer. But you didn't. So now we're going to play a different game. What game? The game where you watch everything you're trying to protect get destroyed. Starting tomorrow, we're going to make life very difficult for Lily Martinez and her family. They won't be able to buy groceries. They won't be able to pay their bills. They won't be able to set foot outside their door without being reminded that they chose the wrong side. Jackson's hands clenched into fists. And if you interfere, Preston continued, we'll escalate. We'll make what happened at the diner look like a tea party. Preston. A new voice. Calm, commanding, cutting through the night. Harrison Whitmore emerged from one of the vehicles, moving with the slow deliberation of a man who controlled everything around him. That's enough. Dad, I know what you were doing, and it stops now. Preston's face reddened. But he humiliated me. He beat 4 of your men, and he's still standing there without a scratch. What does that tell you? Preston didn't answer. It tells me that your approach isn't working. Harrison turned to Jackson. Commander Stone, I underestimated you. That doesn't happen often. First time for everything. Indeed. Harrison studied him for a long moment. You know, in different circumstances, I might have recruited you. A man with your skills could be very useful. I'm not for sale. Everyone is for sale. It's just a matter of finding the right currency. Harrison smiled slightly. But I see that money isn't what motivates you. That makes you interesting and dangerous. I'm glad we understand each other. Oh, we don't understand each other at all. But we will. Harrison gestured to his men. We're leaving, for now. But this isn't over, Commander. Not by a long shot. He returned to his vehicle. Preston hesitated, glaring at Jackson with pure hatred, then followed his father. The convoy pulled away, leaving Jackson standing alone in the darkness. The door opened behind him. Are they gone? Jackson turned. Lily stood in the doorway, Rosa in her arms. For now. They'll be back. Yes. Lily's face was pale, but her voice was steady. Then we need to be ready. Jackson looked at this woman, this waitress who had been beaten and humiliated and fired and threatened, who had every reason to give up, but who was still standing, still fighting. Yeah, he said. We do. From inside the house, Martha's voice called out. Lily Jackson, come look at this. They rushed inside to find Martha at the kitchen table, her ancient laptop open in front of her. On the screen was a news article. What is it, Abuela? Your friend Rodriguez sent this. Martha pointed at the screen. Look. Jackson leaned in to read. The article was from 3 years ago, buried in the archives of a Portland newspaper. The headline read, Ashford Construction investigated for safety violations following worker death. The dead worker's name was Daniel Martinez, and the investigation had been killed by Harrison Whitmore's lawyers before it could reach any conclusions. They murdered him, Lily whispered. They murdered Daniel and covered it up. Jackson read further. There were interviews with witnesses who had recanted their statements, references to evidence that had disappeared, a pattern of intimidation that would be familiar to anyone who had watched the Whitmores operate. This is it, he said. This is how we take them down. How the investigation was closed years ago. Investigations can be reopened, especially when new evidence comes to light. Jackson pulled out his phone. Rodriguez found this by digging through old records. Imagine what else is buried out there. Every person the Whitmores have hurt, every crime they've covered up, every witness who was too scared to talk. They're still scared. They won't be. Not when they see that someone's finally fighting back. Jackson dialed Rodriguez's number. We're going to blow this whole thing wide open. And when we do, the Whitmores are going to pay for everything they've done. Lily looked at the photograph of Daniel in the article, young, smiling, unaware that his life was about to be cut short by powerful men who saw him as nothing more than an obstacle. For Daniel, she whispered. For everyone, Jackson replied. And in his arms, Titan growled softly, as if he understood exactly what was coming. Rodriguez arrived at 3 a.m. Jackson heard the truck before he saw it, a familiar diesel rumble that brought back memories of convoys in hostile territory. He was at the door before Rodriguez could knock. Took you long enough. Drove straight through from San Diego. Rodriguez stepped inside a duffel bag over his shoulder. He was shorter than Jackson, compact and wiry, with the watchful eyes of a man who had spent years gathering intelligence in places where information could get you killed. Chen and Williams are 2 hours behind me. You brought the whole team. You said you needed help. That's all I needed to hear. Titan emerged from the darkness, sniffing Rodriguez carefully before his tail began to wag. Hey, buddy. Good to see you too. Rodriguez scratched behind the dog's ears. He looks better than the last time I saw him. He's recovering. We both are. Rodriguez looked at Jackson, really looked, and nodded slowly. Yeah, I can see that. They sat at Martha's kitchen table while Jackson explained the situation. The Whitmores, the assault on Lily, the threats, the evidence that Daniel Martinez's death wasn't an accident. Rodriguez listened without interrupting, his face growing darker with each detail. So we're dealing with a criminal organization disguised as a business empire. That's the size of it. And the local law enforcement is compromised. Completely. Rodriguez pulled out his laptop. Then we need to go federal. I've been digging since you called. What I found. He turned the screen toward Jackson. The Whitmores aren't just laundering money. They're moving product. Drugs, among other things. Ashford Construction, the company that employed Daniel Martinez, has been receiving shipments from Mexico that don't match any legitimate inventory. The containers arrive at their facility, then disappear from the records. Where do they go? That's what I'm still trying to figure out. But based on the shipping routes and the timing, I think they're connected to the Guerrero cartel. Jackson's jaw tightened. The Guerrero cartel. He'd encountered them before in Colombia during a joint operation with DEA. They were ruthless, well-funded, and absolutely without mercy. If the Whitmores are working with the cartel, this is bigger than a small-town bully with a trust fund. Much bigger, and much more dangerous. Rodriguez closed the laptop. You sure you want to get involved in this? I'm already involved. The moment Preston Whitmore put his hands on that woman, I was involved. I'm not talking about the assault. I'm talking about taking on a criminal network with federal reach and cartel backing. Jackson thought about Lily. About Rosa sleeping in the next room with a failing heart. About Martha, who had spent her whole life fighting for justice and was still waiting to see it. I'm sure. Rodriguez nodded. Then let's get to work. The next 48 hours were a blur of activity. Chen and Williams arrived as promised, 2 more former SEALs who had served under Jackson's command and would follow him into hell without question. They set up surveillance on the Whitmore estate, mapped security patterns, identified vulnerabilities. The main house is heavily guarded, Williams reported. At least 20 men on rotation. But there's a beach house about a mile down the coast that's only got 4. What's at the beach house? That's what we're trying to figure out. There's a lot of traffic in and out, but it doesn't match the profile of a vacation property. Could be a staging area, Chen suggested. Somewhere to process shipments before they move inland. Or it could be where they keep their records, Rodriguez added. If the Whitmores are running an operation this size, they need paperwork. Evidence. Jackson studied the satellite images they'd obtained. We need eyes inside. Too risky. If we're caught, we lose any chance of... I'll do it. The voice came from the doorway. Everyone turned. Lily stood there, still bruised, still battered, but with a fire in her eyes that Jackson had never seen before. Lily, you can't. I can, and I will. She stepped into the room. I'm the only one who can get close without raising suspicion. The Whitmores think I'm broken. They think I'm hiding in this house too scared to fight back. That's exactly what they should think. But it's not the truth. Not anymore. Lily looked at Jackson. You said everyone in this town has been too scared to stand up. Well, I'm standing up. This is my fight as much as yours. Your daughter needs you alive. My daughter needs me to be someone she can be proud of. Someone who didn't run when things got hard. Lily's voice cracked. Daniel died because of these people. They took my husband. They're not going to take my future too. Jackson wanted to argue. Every tactical instinct told him that civilians didn't belong in operations. But he saw the determination in Lily's face, the same determination he'd seen in soldiers who refused to leave their brothers behind. What did you have in mind? Lily pulled a piece of paper from her pocket. I applied for a job at the beach house 3 months ago, before Daniel died. They were hiring housekeeping staff. And I didn't get the job, but my application is still in their system. She smiled grimly. I can call, say I heard they were hiring again. If they're short-staffed, they might not look too closely. Rodriguez and Chen exchanged glances. It could work, Rodriguez admitted, if they don't make the connection to the incident at the diner. Preston never looked at my face. Not really. I was just furniture to him. Jackson was quiet for a long moment. This was risky, reckless, everything he'd been trained to avoid. But sometimes the reckless move was the only move. Okay, we'll set you up with a wire and a panic button. If anything feels wrong, you get out immediately. No heroics. I understand. Lily. Jackson caught her arm as she turned to leave. I mean it. At the first sign of trouble, you run. Rosa needs her mother. Lily's eyes glistened. I know. That's why I have to do this. The plan was set in motion the next morning. Lily called the beach house, using her most submissive voice, asking if they were still looking for cleaning staff. The woman who answered, a housekeeper named Maria, said they were short-handed and could use help that afternoon. Just come to the service entrance. We'll get you set up. Thank you. Thank you so much. She hung up and looked at Jackson. I'm in. Rodriguez fitted her with a wire so small it was invisible under her clothes. Chen gave her a panic button disguised as a pendant. Press this and we'll be there in 4 minutes, he said. No matter what's happening, we'll be there. Jackson walked her to the car that Williams would drive. Remember the signal. If you can't talk, tap the pendant twice. We'll know something's wrong. I remember. And Lily. Jackson hesitated. Thank you for doing this, for being brave. I'm not brave. I'm angry. She almost smiled. Turns out that's almost the same thing. Williams drove her to the beach house while Jackson and the team set up in a surveillance van half a mile away. They could hear everything through her wire, her footsteps on gravel, the door opening, the voice of Maria greeting her. You're the one who called this morning. Yes, ma'am. Lily Santos. She'd changed her last name as a precaution. Santos. All right, come in. We've got a lot of rooms to clean before tonight. What's happening tonight? Party. Mr. Whitmore is hosting some business associates. Very important people. Everything has to be perfect. In the van, Rodriguez looked at Jackson. Business associates. That could be the cartel connection. Keep listening. For the next 3 hours, they heard Lily clean rooms, change sheets, vacuum floors. It was mind-numbingly ordinary, the sounds of domestic work in a wealthy household. Then she went into the study. This room needs special attention, Maria's voice said. Mr. Preston uses it for his business meetings. Don't touch any papers, don't open any drawers, just dust and vacuum. Yes, ma'am. Maria's footsteps retreated. Lily was alone. Jackson heard her breathing change faster, more deliberate. I'm in the study, she whispered, barely audible. There are files everywhere, computer on the desk. Can you get pictures? Rodriguez asked. I'll try. Through the wire they heard the soft click of her phone camera. Once, twice, a dozen times. There's a locked cabinet in the corner. Looks important. Don't force it. We don't want them to know someone was here. Wait, there's a key on the desk, hidden under some papers. A pause, the sound of metal on metal. It's open. Lily's gasp was audible through the wire. Oh my God. What is it? What do you see? Money, stacks of money, and documents, shipping manifests, names and dates, and... Her voice dropped to a horrified whisper. Jackson, there's a file with Daniel's name on it. In the van, everyone went still. Take pictures of everything. The camera clicked again and again. Lily's breathing was ragged, panicked, but she kept shooting. There's more. Some kind of ledger, payments to Sheriff Donovan, to city council members. She stopped. Lily, what is it? There's a list of names, people who needed to be handled. Daniel is on the list, and next to his name is a date. What date? The day before he died. Jackson closed his eyes. There it was. Proof that Daniel Martinez was murdered. Proof that Harrison Whitmore ordered it. Get out of there, now! I need more pictures. Lily, get out. That's an order. I'm not in your army, Jackson. No, you're in something worse. You're in the middle of a criminal organization that kills people who know too much. Get out, now! Lily's breathing steadied. They heard the camera click one more time, then the sound of the cabinet closing, the key being replaced. I'm moving. Good. Head for the service entrance. Williams will pick you up. They heard her footsteps, measured, controlled, trying not to run. The hallway, the kitchen, the back door. Then a voice that made Jackson's blood freeze. Going somewhere. Preston Whitmore. In the van, everyone reached for their weapons. Mr. Whitmore. Lily's voice was steady, but Jackson could hear the terror underneath. I was just finishing my shift. Were you? Because Maria tells me you spent an awful lot of time in my study for someone who was supposed to be cleaning? I was dusting, like she asked. Just dusting. Preston's voice got closer. Then why do I see camera fingerprints on my father's filing cabinet? Lily didn't answer. You know, I thought you looked familiar when you walked in. Couldn't quite place the face. But then I remembered the waitress from the diner, the one who needed to learn her place. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. Preston's voice rose to a shout. I never forget a face I've hit. The sound of a struggle. Lily screaming, something crashing to the floor. Jackson was already out of the van. Move now. The team mobilized in seconds, 4 men plus Titan weapons ready, racing toward the beach house. 4 minutes was too long. Lily might not have 4 minutes. Through his earpiece, Jackson could still hear what was happening. Preston shouting, Lily crying, the sound of flesh hitting flesh. Did you really think you could spy on us? Did you really think your soldier friend could protect you? Please. Your friend made a big mistake coming to this town, and now you're going to help me teach him a lesson. A car door slammed. Engine starting. They're moving her, Rodriguez said. Heading inland. Can you track her phone? Already on it. They're taking the coast road toward the main estate. Jackson's mind raced. The main estate was a fortress. If they got Lily inside, extracting her would be nearly impossible. We need to intercept before they reach the property. There's a choke point about 2 miles up the road. Sharp curve, single lane. If we can get there first. Do it. They pushed their vehicles to the limit, taking shortcuts through back roads that Chen had mapped during surveillance. The clock was ticking. Every second was a second closer to losing Lily forever. Contact in 90 seconds. Jackson checked his weapon. Beside him, Titan was rigid with anticipation, sensing the coming violence. Remember, Lily's our priority. We get her out. Everything else is secondary. What about Preston? If he gets in the way, he goes down. But we don't start a war if we can avoid it. And if we can't avoid it, Jackson's jaw tightened. Then we end it. They reached the choke point with 30 seconds to spare. Rodriguez and Williams positioned on the high ground. Chen blocked the road with their vehicle. Jackson waited at the curved Titan at his side. The convoy appeared 2 black SUVs moving fast. "On my signal," Jackson said into his radio. 3, 2, 1, now. Chen's vehicle pulled across the road. The lead SUV slammed on its brakes, skidding on the gravel. The second SUV tried to reverse, but Williams was already behind them, blocking the retreat. Jackson stepped out from cover, rifle raised. "Out of the vehicles. Now." For a moment, nothing happened. Then doors opened, and men emerged, 6 of them, all armed, all professional. "We don't want trouble," one of them said. "Just following orders." "Your orders are over. Hand over the woman." A long pause. The men exchanged glances. Then Preston's voice came from inside the lead SUV. "Kill him!" Everything happened at once. The first guard raised his weapon, but Titan was already moving, 90 pounds of muscle and teeth slamming into his chest. The man went down screaming. Jackson dropped the second guard with a shot to the shoulder. Rodriguez and Williams opened fire from above, pinning the remaining men behind their vehicles. Chen rushed the second SUV, yanking the driver out and putting him on the ground. "Where's the woman?" "Back seat, back seat." Jackson reached the lead SUV's rear door and tore it open. Lily was there, bound and gagged, her face bruised, her eyes wild with terror. Preston was beside her, using her as a shield, a gun pressed to her temple. "One more step and I blow her brains out." Jackson froze. "Preston, let her go." "So you can kill me?" "I don't think so." Preston's voice was high, panicked. "My father was right about you. Should have put a bullet in your head the first night. This doesn't end well for you either way. But if you let her go, you walk away. Walk away to what prison? You've seen our files. You know everything. I know your father ordered a man's death. I know you've assaulted multiple women. I know you're running drugs for a Mexican cartel." Jackson's voice was ice. "But right now, I don't care about any of that. Right now, I just want the woman. Let her go and we'll figure out the rest later." Preston laughed, a high, unstable sound. "You don't get it, do you? There is no later. My father will never let you leave this town alive. Neither will his partners. Then let's make a deal. Lily for you." "What?" "I let you go. Right now. Free and clear. You drive away and I take Lily. Then we're done." Preston hesitated. Jackson could see the calculation in his eyes, the fear of death warring with the fear of his father. "How do I know you won't shoot me the moment I let her go?" "Because I'm a man of my word. And because I'd rather have her safe than you dead." A long moment passed. Then Preston shoved Lily out of the car and raised his gun at Jackson. Titan moved before anyone else could react. The dog launched himself at Preston, jaws clamping down on the gun arm. Preston screamed, the weapon discharging wild into the air, and then man and dog were on the ground. Titan's growl drowning out everything else. "Titan, hold." The dog's jaw remained locked, but he stopped shaking. Preston whimpered beneath him. Jackson rushed to Lily, cutting her bonds, pulling the gag from her mouth. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" "I'm okay. I'm okay." She was shaking, crying, but alive. "Jackson, the files, I got pictures. I got everything." "I know. You did good." He held her close, feeling her heart pound against his chest. "You did so good." "What about Preston?" Jackson looked at the man pinned beneath his dog. Preston's face was white with terror, his arm bleeding where Titan's teeth had broken skin. "He's coming with us. We've got a lot of questions for him." Then he heard the sound of engines. Many engines. Rodriguez's voice crackled through the radio. Jackson, we've got company. Multiple vehicles inbound. At least 10. Whitmore's reinforcements. Negative. These aren't local. The plates are from Mexico. The cartel. Jackson's blood went cold. Everyone fall back. Fall back now. They ran for their vehicles, dragging Preston with them. Titan raced alongside his limp, barely slowing him. The convoy appeared just as they cleared the choke point. Black SUVs with tinted windows, professional drivers moving with military precision. They're not pursuing, Chen reported. They're heading for the beach house. Why would they? Then Jackson understood. The files. Lily photographed evidence connecting the Whitmores to the cartel. They're going to destroy everything. Let them. We have what we need. No, we don't have enough. We have pictures, but the originals would make the case ironclad. Jackson made a decision. Rodriguez Williams, get Lily to safety. Chen, you're with me. Jackson. Lily grabbed his arm. What are you doing? Getting the evidence we need to put these people away forever. But the cartel. I've dealt with them before. He squeezed her hand. Get Rosa. Get Martha. Drive to the nearest FBI field office and don't stop for anything. And you? I'll find you. I promise. He released her hand and ran back toward the beach house, Chen at his side, Titan leading the way. They approached from the cliffside, using the terrain for cover. Below them, the beach house was surrounded by cartel vehicles. Men were carrying boxes out, documents, computers, anything that could tie the Whitmores to their operation. They're clearing out, Chen whispered. Another 5 minutes, and there won't be anything left. Then we have 4 minutes. They moved down the cliff face using skills honed in mountain warfare training. Titan scrambled beside them, sure-footed despite his injured leg. The beach house's rear entrance was unguarded. All the security was focused on the front on the loading operation. Jackson slipped inside Chen, covering the door. The study was already half empty. But the locked cabinet, the one with Daniel's file, was still there. The cartel soldiers hadn't gotten to it yet. Jackson reached it just as footsteps approached from the hallway. He dropped behind the desk, Titan pressing close, both of them silent as shadows. 2 men entered, speaking rapid Spanish. Told us to burn everything. The boss doesn't want any connection to the Whitmores. And the family? Harrison goes to prison. His son too, probably. Not our problem. What about the soldier, the SEAL? He's already dead. He just doesn't know it yet. They reached for the cabinet and Jackson made his move. He took the first man down with a chokehold, dropping him unconscious in seconds. The second man spun, reaching for his weapon. But Titan was faster. The dog's jaws closed around his forearm, and his scream was cut short when Jackson's fist connected with his temple. Chen, I've got the files. Moving to extraction. Copy that. But we've got a problem. What kind of problem? More vehicles arriving. Looks like the main Whitmore security force. Jackson grabbed the cabinet's contents folders, ledgers, everything he could carry, and stuffed them into a bag. Time to go. He and Titan reached the rear door just as Chen opened fire. They spotted us. Go. Jackson ran. Bullets whipped past him close enough to feel the air displacement. Titan sprinted beside him, ignoring the gunfire with the calm of a combat veteran. They reached the cliff face and started climbing. Below them, men were shouting, flashlights sweeping the darkness. Contact 20 meters behind, Chen reported. I'm pinned down. Can you make the rendezvous point? Negative. I'll draw them off. Get the evidence out. Chen. That's an order, Commander. Get the evidence out. Jackson wanted to argue, but he knew Chen was right. The mission was bigger than any one man. I'll come back for you. I know you will. Jackson climbed faster, Titan scrambling beside him, the bag of evidence strapped across his back. Below, he could hear Chen's weapon firing, drawing the pursuers away. They reached the top of the cliff and found the extraction vehicle where Williams had left it. Jackson threw himself behind the wheel, Titan jumping into the passenger seat. Rodriguez status on Lily. She's safe. We're 10 miles out, heading for Portland. Copy that. I'm right behind you. He started the engine and tore out of the parking area just as headlights appeared behind him. The pursuit lasted 20 miles. 3 vehicles followed Jackson through winding coastal roads, their drivers professional, their intentions clear. Every time he thought he'd lost them, they appeared again, relentless as a nightmare. Then, Titan barked a sharp warning. Jackson looked in his mirror and saw a man leaning out of the lead SUV, aiming something long and metallic. Down! He swerved just as the rocket-propelled grenade screamed past, exploding in the trees ahead. The shockwave rocked the vehicle, but Jackson kept control, pushing the accelerator harder. They're trying to kill the evidence, he realized. They don't care about capturing me anymore. Another RPG launched. This one hit closer, showering the vehicle with debris. Jackson couldn't outrun them, and he couldn't let the evidence burn. He made a decision. Titan, hold on. He yanked the wheel hard, sending the vehicle off the road and down an embankment. The truck crashed through underbrush, bounced over rocks, and finally came to rest at the bottom of a ravine. Jackson grabbed the bag and ran. He knew this terrain, he'd studied it during surveillance, memorized every trail and hiding spot. The cartel soldiers might have numbers, but Jackson had knowledge. And Titan. The dog led him through the darkness, avoiding patrols, finding routes that no GPS could show. They moved for hours, the sounds of pursuit gradually fading behind them. At dawn, they reached the rendezvous point, a rest stop on the interstate where Rodriguez waited with Lily and the others. Jackson. Lily rushed toward him, then stopped short when she saw the blood on his clothes. Oh God, are you hurt? Not my blood. He handed the bag to Rodriguez. This is everything. The files, the ledgers, the proof. Enough to put the Whitmores away forever. And the cartel? They'll scatter. Without the Whitmore connection, they've got no foothold here. The FBI can handle the rest. Rodriguez opened the bag, flipping through the documents. His eyes widened. This is everything. Not just the local corruption, there are connections here to operations in 3 other states. This is going to bring down a whole network. Jackson sank onto a bench, exhaustion finally catching up with him. Titan pressed against his legs and he rested his hand on the dog's head. Chen. No word yet, but I know Chen. He'll find a way out. Lily sat beside Jackson, her hand finding his. We did it. We actually did it. Not yet. Not until these files reach the right people. Rodriguez is already calling his FBI contact. By tonight this will all be over. Jackson wanted to believe her, but he'd seen too many operations fall apart at the last minute to celebrate early. Where's Rosa? Is she safe? She's with Martha at the FBI field office in Portland. They have agents protecting them. Good, that's good. Lily squeezed his hand. You saved my life. Again. You saved yourself. I just helped. Don't do that. Don't minimize what you did. Lily's voice cracked. You came into that diner and you saw me. Really saw me. Nobody had seen me in years. I couldn't walk past. Most people do. Most people walked past every time Preston hurt someone. Every time his father destroyed a life. But you stopped. You chose to stop. Jackson looked at her, this woman who had lost everything, and was still fighting, still hoping, still believing in something better. I had to, he said simply, because that's who I want to be, someone who stops. Titan suddenly lifted his head, his ears pricking toward the road. Then Jackson heard it, the sound of approaching vehicles. He was on his feet instantly, weapon in hand. Everyone get to cover. The vehicles appeared around the bend. Black SUVs, government plates. And in the lead vehicle, a woman Jackson recognized, Agent Maria Santos, FBI. Stand down, Commander Stone. Her voice was amplified through a speaker. We're here to help. Jackson lowered his weapon slowly. How did you find us? Rodriguez's call. And a tip from a friend. Santos stepped out of her vehicle, her face grim but satisfied. We've been watching the Whitmore operation for months, just never had enough evidence to move. You have it now. Thanks to you, and to her. Santos nodded at Lily. That was incredibly brave what you did. Lily's hand found Jackson's. I had help. Santos looked between them, the soldier and the waitress, the dog lying at their feet, and something like a smile crossed her face. We have a lot to discuss, but first we need to get you all somewhere safe. As they climbed into the FBI vehicles, Jackson heard a sound from Titan, a low whimper barely audible. He looked down, and his heart stopped. Blood, pooling beneath the dog, a wound in his side that hadn't been visible in the darkness. Titan! Jackson dropped to his knees, hands pressing against the wound. The dog's eyes found his amber pools of pain and loyalty, and something that looked like apology. No, buddy, stay with me. We need a vet, Lily was screaming. We need help! Santos was shouting into her radio. Rodriguez was running toward them, but all Jackson could see was his dog, his partner, his brother, the only family he had left bleeding out in his arms. Stay with me, Titan. That's an order. You don't get to die, not now, not after everything. The dog's tail moved just once, just barely, and then his eyes closed. The veterinary emergency room was the longest wait of Jackson's life. He sat in a plastic chair that was too small for his frame, his hands still covered in Titan's blood, his eyes fixed on the door that separated him from his dog. Lily sat beside him silent, her hand resting on his arm, a small comfort in an ocean of fear. He's been in surgery for 3 hours, Jackson said, his voice hollow. That's too long. He's fighting. That's what he does. He took that bullet for me, during the escape. I didn't even notice. I was so focused on the evidence I didn't see him bleeding. You couldn't have known. I should have known. He's my partner. My responsibility. Jackson's hands clenched. He saved my life in Afghanistan. He's saved my life a dozen times since. And I didn't even notice when he was dying. Lily squeezed his arm. He's not dead, Jackson. He's in there fighting, just like he's always fought. Rodriguez appeared in the doorway, a phone in his hand. Commander, I've got news. The FBI raided the Whitmore estate 20 minutes ago. Harrison's in custody. Preston, too. Sheriff Donovan was picked up at his home. Jackson barely reacted. That's good. It's better than good. They found more evidence at the estate records going back 15 years. Money laundering, bribery connections to 3 different cartels. Rodriguez paused. And they found documentation on Daniel Martinez. Internal memos discussing the problem and how to handle it. Lily's breath caught. They really did kill him. We always knew that, Lily. Knowing and proving are different things. Her voice cracked. Now everyone will know. Everyone will know Daniel was murdered. Jackson finally looked up. What about Chen? He made it out. Got picked up by local PD about an hour ago. Couple of broken ribs, but he's going to be fine. Good. That's good. The door to the surgical suite opened and a woman in scrubs stepped out. Her face was exhausted, but not defeated. Commander Stone. Jackson was on his feet instantly. How is he? Your dog is a fighter. The vet allowed herself a small smile. The bullet nicked an artery. We almost lost him twice on the table, but he stabilized about 20 minutes ago. He's going to make it. Jackson's legs nearly gave out. He's going to make it. He's going to need extensive recovery time, physical therapy. The damage to his hip will likely leave him with a permanent limp. The vet's voice softened. But yes, he's going to make it. Lily caught Jackson as he swayed, her arms wrapping around him. He buried his face in her hair, and for the first time since Afghanistan, he let himself cry. Thank God, he whispered. Thank God. They let him see Titan an hour later. The dog lay on a padded table, tubes and wires connecting him to machines that beeped with reassuring regularity. His eyes were closed, his breathing shallow but steady. Jackson pulled up a chair and sat beside him, his hand finding the familiar fur. Hey buddy, I'm here. Titan's tail moved the smallest possible motion, but unmistakably intentional. You scared me. You know that. You're not allowed to scare me like that. The tail moved again. The vet says you're going to be fine. You'll have a limp, but you'll be fine. Jackson's voice broke. I'm sorry I didn't notice sooner. I'm sorry I was so focused on the mission that I forgot about you. Titan's eyes opened just slits barely conscious, but finding Jackson's face with the unerring instinct of a dog who had always known exactly where his master was. I love you, buddy. You're my family, the only family I have left. A small sound escaped Titan's throat, not quite a whine, not quite a bark, something in between, something that sounded like love. The door opened behind them. Lily stood in the doorway, Rosa in her arms. Someone wanted to see the brave dog. Rosa's eyes were wide with worry. Is he okay? Mama said he got hurt. He's going to be fine, sweetheart. He just needs to rest. Rosa squirmed until Lily set her down, then walked carefully to the table. She was so small she had to stand on tiptoes to see. Hi, Titan. I'm sorry you got hurt. She reached out and gently touched his ear. Mama says you saved her, and you saved Jackson too. That makes you a hero. Titan's tail wagged weakly. Can I give him a kiss? Jackson nodded, unable to speak. Rosa leaned in and pressed her lips to Titan's forehead, a gesture so innocent, so pure that Jackson felt his heart crack open. Thank you for being brave, Rosa whispered. I'll pray for you to get better. Lily lifted her daughter back into her arms, her own eyes glistening. We should let him rest. Can I stay? Jackson asked. I don't think you could leave if you tried. Lily smiled softly. We'll be in the waiting room. Agent Santos wants to talk to you when you're ready. I'm not leaving him. I know, she can wait. They left and Jackson was alone with his dog. He settled deeper into the chair, his hand never leaving Titan's side. We did it, buddy. The Whitmores are going down. The cartel is scattered. Lily and Rosa are safe. He paused. And Daniel's death won't be for nothing. Everyone will know what really happened. Titan's breathing deepened, evening out into the rhythm of sleep. Rest now. I'll be here when you wake up. I'm not going anywhere. Jackson closed his eyes, exhaustion finally catching up with him. For the first time in months, he slept without nightmares. The trial was the event of the year. National media descended on Oregon cameras, capturing every moment of the Whitmore downfall. Harrison Whitmore, once the most powerful man in Crescent Bay, was led into court in handcuffs, his silver hair disheveled, his expensive suit wrinkled from a night in jail. Preston followed, looking smaller than Jackson remembered. Without his money, his security, his father's protection, he was just a scared young man facing the consequences of a lifetime of cruelty. Sheriff Wade Donovan had turned state's evidence within hours of his arrest, providing testimony that connected the Whitmores to crimes spanning 2 decades. His betrayal was the final nail in the coffin. The charges were staggering. Murder, conspiracy, money laundering, racketeering, drug trafficking, obstruction of justice, and for Preston specifically assault, kidnapping, and 5 counts of sexual battery from victims who had finally found the courage to come forward. Lily testified on the 3rd day. She walked into the courtroom wearing a simple dress, her head held high. Jackson watched from the gallery, Titan resting at his feet. The dog had insisted on coming limping into the courthouse with the determination of a soldier who refused to be left behind. State your name for the record. Lily Martinez. Ms. Martinez, can you describe what happened at the Coastal Light Diner on the afternoon of July 15th? Lily looked at Preston, this man who had slammed her face into a table, who had laughed while she bled, who had tried to destroy her life. She wasn't afraid anymore. I was working my usual shift. Mr. Whitmore and his girlfriend came in around noon. He was rude from the moment he sat down, snapping his fingers, making insulting comments about the food, about the restaurant, about me. Did something specific trigger the assault? I accidentally splashed a drop of sauce on his shoe while refilling his coffee. It was a tiny amount, barely visible. but he exploded. "Can you describe what he did?" Lily's voice was steady, but Jackson could see her hands trembling. He grabbed my hair and slammed my face into the table, broke my nose, blood everywhere. She paused. And he laughed. He actually laughed while I was bleeding. What did he say? That servants need to learn their place, that I was furniture with legs. Lily's eyes met Preston's. He said his family owned me. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. The judge called for order. What happened next? Jackson Stone walked in. He saw what was happening and he stopped it. The defendant claims Mr. Stone threatened him unprovoked. That's a lie. Jackson told Preston to let me go. That's all. But Preston, he was so used to getting away with everything he couldn't believe someone was actually standing up to him. What did Mr. Whitmore do then? He called his father, called the sheriff. Within minutes, law enforcement arrived not to arrest Preston for assault, but to remove Jackson for threatening a Whitmore. And that's when you realize the extent of the Whitmore influence in this town. I always knew. Everyone always knew. Lily's voice hardened. But nobody did anything about it, because the Whitmores destroyed anyone who tried. Like your husband. The courtroom went silent. Yes. Lily's voice cracked, but she pushed through. Like my husband. Daniel saw things on his construction site meetings with cartel members, money changing hands. He wanted to report it, and 2 days later, he was dead. The official ruling was accidental death. The official ruling was whatever Harrison Whitmore paid for. Lily looked at the jury. My husband was murdered because he wanted to do the right thing. I spent 2 years believing it was my fault, that if I'd just let him report what he saw, he'd still be alive. And now I know the truth. Now everyone will know. Lily wiped her eyes. Daniel didn't die because of anything I did or didn't do. He died because the Whitmores couldn't allow anyone to threaten their empire. Not even an honest man with a family who loved him. Jackson watched her step down from the witness stand, this woman who had been broken and rebuilt, who had risked everything to see justice done. She caught his eye as she walked past, and something passed between them. Something that needed no words. The verdict came on a Friday. Harrison Whitmore guilty on all charges. Sentencing recommendation life without parole. Preston Whitmore guilty on all charges. Sentencing recommendation 45 years. Sheriff Wade Donovan guilty on all charges. Sentencing recommendation 20 years with possibility of parole after 15. The courtroom erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Photographers captured Harrison's face as the verdict was read, the moment when a man who had controlled everything realized he controlled nothing anymore. Jackson sat still, his hand on Titan's head, watching the Whitmore's empire crumble. Lily found him after the courtroom cleared. "We did it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You did it. You testified. You got the evidence. You were brave when it mattered. I couldn't have done any of it without you." She took his hand. "You saw me, Jackson. When nobody else would, you saw me. I'll always see you." Rosa appeared, having been with Martha in the hallway during the verdict. She ran to Jackson and threw her arms around his legs. "We won. Abuela said the bad guys are going to jail." Jackson lifted her up, something he'd never done before. The little girl felt impossibly light in his arms. "Yes, sweetheart, the bad guys are going to jail." "Does that mean Titan can come live with us now since it's safe?" Jackson looked at Lily, who smiled. "I think Titan would like that very much." The story didn't end with the verdict. The evidence Jackson and Lily had gathered didn't just bring down the Whitmores, it exposed a network of corruption that stretched across 3 states. FBI agents made dozens of arrests in the following weeks. Politicians, businessmen, law enforcement officers, all of them connected to the cartel operation the Whitmores had been running. Agent Santos called Jackson 2 weeks after the trial. "We've dismantled their entire network. The Guerrero cartel has lost their foothold in the Pacific Northwest. They're retreating back across the border." "Good. More than good. This is the biggest takedown we've had in 5 years. And it started because you walked into a diner at the right time. It started because Preston Whitmore thought he could hurt people without consequences. Either way, you've made a lot of powerful friends in the Bureau. If you ever need anything. Actually, there is something. Santos listened while Jackson explained. Rosa's heart condition. The surgery she needed. The cost that Lily could never afford. I'll make some calls, Santos said when he finished. We have a fund for victims of violent crime. Given what Lily went through, she more than qualifies. Thank you. No, Commander, thank you, for everything. The call from the hospital came a week later. Ms. Martinez, this is Dr. Chen from Oregon Health Sciences. I'm calling about your daughter Rosa's case. Lily's heart stopped. Is something wrong? Nothing's wrong. In fact, I have good news. The doctor's voice was warm. An anonymous donor has covered the full cost of Rosa's surgery. We can schedule the procedure as soon as you're ready. Lily collapsed into a chair, the phone nearly slipping from her fingers. What? How I didn't? I'm not at liberty to discuss the details of the donation, but I can tell you that it came with a note. The doctor paused. It says, for Daniel, and for everyone who deserves a second chance. Lily was crying too hard to respond. Jackson found her in the kitchen, still clutching the phone, her face wet with tears. Lily. What happened? Rosa's surgery. Someone paid for it. All of it. What? An anonymous donor. They paid for everything. She looked up at him. Did you? It wasn't me. I don't have that kind of money. Then who? Jackson thought about his phone call with Agent Santos. About the powerful friends she'd mentioned. Does it matter Rosa's going to get her surgery? That's what counts. Lily threw her arms around him, sobbing into his chest. I've been so scared, Jackson. For 2 years I've been so scared. Every day watching her get weaker, knowing I couldn't do anything to save her. That's over now. She's going to be okay. Because of you. Everything good that's happened, it's all because of you. No. Jackson pulled back to look at her. It's because you refused to give up. Even when the Whitmores were trying to destroy you, you kept fighting. For Rosa, for Daniel, for yourself, for us. The word hung in the air between them. Jackson had been avoiding this moment. Avoiding what he felt. Because he was broken, damaged, a soldier without a war. Because Lily deserved someone whole. But looking at her now, this woman who had survived so much, who had shown more courage than half the soldiers he'd served with, he realized something. They were both broken. And maybe that's what made them right for each other. Yeah, he said softly. For us. Rosa's surgery was scheduled for November 15th. The night before, the little girl couldn't sleep. She kept asking questions, her voice tiny in the darkness. Will it hurt? You won't feel anything, Lily promised. You'll be asleep the whole time. What if I don't wake up? You will, baby. The doctors are going to fix your heart, and when you wake up, you'll feel stronger than ever. Will Jackson be there? And Titan? We'll all be there. The whole family. Rosa was quiet for a moment. Is Jackson my family now? Lily looked at Jackson, who was standing in the doorway, having heard every word. I think he is, sweetheart. If that's okay with you. It's okay. Rosa's voice was drowsy. He saved us. And he has a really big dog. Jackson crossed to the bed, crouching down to Rosa's level. Hey, sweetheart. You know what Titan told me? Dogs can't talk. This one can, but only I can hear him. Jackson smiled. He told me you're the bravest person he's ever met. Braver than any soldier. Really. Really. And he said when you wake up from surgery, he's going to let you ride on his back. Just once. Because you're special. Rosa's eyes widened. Promise? Promise. She smiled a genuine, unworried smile, and closed her eyes. Within minutes, she was asleep. Lily wiped her eyes. You're good with her. She makes it easy. They stood together in the doorway, watching the little girl sleep. "Thank you," Lily whispered. "For everything. For being here. For staying." "I'm not going anywhere, Lily. Not anymore." The surgery lasted 6 hours. Jackson sat in the waiting room with Lily, Martha, and Titan, counting the minutes, praying to a God he wasn't sure he believed in. Tom Henderson showed up around noon, bringing sandwiches no one ate. Gloria from the diner came with coffee that grew cold. Other townspeople filtered in throughout the day. People who had heard what happened, who had been touched by the story of the waitress and the soldier and the dog. Crescent Bay was finally standing together. Finally choosing to be more than they had been. The surgeon emerged at 4:47 p.m. "Ms. Martinez." Lily was on her feet instantly. "How is she? Is she okay?" "The surgery was successful. We repaired the defect completely. Rosa is going to be just fine." The sound that escaped Lily was somewhere between a scream and a sob. Jackson caught her as her legs gave out, holding her while she cried. "She's okay," he kept saying. "She's okay." Martha was praying, her hands clasped, tears streaming down her weathered face. "Thank you, God. Thank you." Tom Henderson was shaking hands with everyone, his own eyes wet. Gloria was hugging the other diner employees who had come to show support. And Titan, old injured Titan, lifted his head and let out a single bark of triumph. They let Lily see Rosa first. The little girl was pale, hooked up to machines, but her vitals were strong. When Lily took her hand, Rosa's eyes fluttered open. "Mama. I'm here, baby. I'm right here." Did they fix my heart? They fixed it. You're going to be healthy now. You're going to run and play and do everything other kids do. Can I play with Titan? Whenever you want. Rosa smiled, weak but real. I'm tired. Then sleep, mi amor. I'll be here when you wake up. Promise. I promise. Rosa's eyes closed and Lily let the tears come. Jackson found her in the hospital chapel 2 hours later. She was sitting alone in a pew, staring at the simple wooden cross at the front of the room. Her hands were folded in her lap, her face peaceful. "Room for one more?" She slid over and he sat beside her. "I was talking to Daniel," she said. "Telling him about everything that happened, the trial, the surgery, you." "What did you tell him about me?" "That a stranger walked into a diner and saved his family. That the same stranger stayed when everyone else walked away. That he's the first person since Daniel died who made me feel like I wasn't alone." Jackson didn't know what to say. "I loved Daniel," Lily continued. "I'll always love him. He was my husband. He gave me Rosa. He gave me everything." "I know. But he's gone. And you're here." She turned to look at him. "Is it wrong to want both? To love someone who's gone and still hope for something new?" "I think Daniel would want you to be happy. I think that's what anyone who really loves someone wants." "What do you want, Jackson?" The question hit harder than he expected. "I want to stop running," he said slowly. "I've been running since Afghanistan. Running from the guilt. Running from the memories. Running from the feeling that I should have died with my team. But then I walked into a diner, and I saw a woman being hurt, and for the first time in months, I felt something other than pain." He took her hand. "I felt purpose. I felt like maybe I survived for a reason." "What reason?" "To find you. To save Rosa. To help Crescent Bay remember what it means to stand up for each other." Lily's eyes glistened. "So what happens now?" "Now." Jackson squeezed her hand. "Now we build something. Together, if you'll have me." "Jackson Stone, are you asking to stay?" "I'm asking for more than that. I'm asking to be part of your family. You, Rosa, Martha." He smiled slightly. "Even Titan, who's already claimed the best spot on the couch." Lily laughed through her tears. "He does take up a lot of room. He's worth it." Jackson's face grew serious. So are you Lily? So is Rosa. So is this crazy, broken, beautiful life we've somehow stumbled into. She leaned into him, her head resting on his shoulder. Yes. Yes. Yes, I'll have you. Yes, we'll build something together. Yes to all of it. She looked up at him. I've been waiting 2 years to feel something other than afraid. And when I'm with you, I'm not afraid anymore. Jackson kissed her forehead. Then let's go check on our daughter. It was the first time he'd called Rosa that. Lily's smile told him it wouldn't be the last. The recovery took time. Rosa spent a week in the hospital, then another month of restricted activity at home. But every day she grew stronger. Every day her smile grew brighter. Every day, the shadow of fear that had hung over the Martinez household for years grew a little lighter. Jackson was there through all of it. He moved into the little house on Elm Street, officially into the guest room, though most nights he fell asleep on the couch with Titan and woke up with Rosa curled against his other side. He helped Martha with her garden. He fixed the fence that had been sagging for years. He taught Rosa to throw a ball so Titan could chase it even with his limp. And slowly, carefully, he fell in love. Not the dramatic, explosive love of movies and songs, but something quieter, something built on shared meals and midnight conversations, and the gradual realization that this was where he belonged. Crescent Bay changed too. With the Whitmores gone, the town began to breathe again. Businesses that had been struggling flourished. People who had been afraid to speak found their voices. The diner where it all started, the Coastal Light, became a symbol of the town's renewal. Tom Henderson organized a celebration for Lily and Jackson, a thank you party that half the town attended. There was food and music and laughter, the sounds of a community remembering what it meant to be whole. To the soldier who didn't walk away, Tom announced, raising his glass, and to the waitress who reminded us what courage looks like. And to the dog, Rosa shouted, and everyone laughed. Titan, sitting beside the buffet table in case anyone dropped anything, wagged his tail. That night, after Rosa was asleep and Martha had retired to her room, Jackson and Lily sat on the porch swing, watching the stars. I spoke to the Navy today, Jackson said. Lily tensed. And they offered me a training position. Instructor at Coronado. That's big. It is. He turned to look at her. I turned it down. What, Jackson? That's your career. That's your life. That was my life. Now I have a different one. He took her hand. I'm staying, Lily, right here, in this town, with you and Rosa and Martha and Titan. He smiled. I'm done running. I'm done looking for purpose in war zones when there's purpose right here. Lily's eyes filled with tears. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. She kissed him, really kissed him for the first time since they'd met. And Jackson felt something he thought he'd lost forever. Hope. Real hope. Not the desperate kind that kept you clinging to life in a combat zone, but the quiet kind that came from knowing you were exactly where you were supposed to be. Titan lifted his head and barked once, a sound that might have been approval. And somewhere Jackson was certain Daniel Martinez was smiling. 3 years had changed everything. Jackson stood at the window of the little house on Elm Street, except it wasn't so little anymore. The additions he'd built over the past 2 years had transformed it from a cramped cottage into a real home. A home with enough room for a growing family. Daddy! Daddy, look! He turned to see Rosa sprinting across the yard, her dark hair flying behind her. She was 8 now, strong and healthy, with a heart that beat perfectly, and a smile that could light up the darkest room. What is it, sweetheart? Titan caught a ball. He actually caught it. The old German shepherd limped after her, the tennis ball clenched triumphantly in his jaws. His muzzle was gray now, his movements slower, but his eyes still held that spark of the warrior he'd always been. Good boy, Titan. Jackson knelt to scratch behind his ears. Still got it, huh? Titan's tail wagged, and he dropped the ball at Jackson's feet, an invitation to throw it again. One more, then it's time for dinner. He threw the ball, and Titan chased it with all the enthusiasm his aging body could muster. Rosa ran alongside him, laughing, the two of them inseparable as always. "They're quite a pair." Jackson turned to find Lily standing in the doorway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She looked different from the broken woman he'd met in that diner 3 years ago. Stronger, calmer, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with appearance, and everything to do with the light that had returned to her eyes. "She's got your energy. She's got your stubbornness." Jackson smiled. "That's a good thing." "Is it?" "Got me through a lot of bad situations." Lily crossed to him, sliding her arms around his waist. He pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her hair, familiar now, comforting the smell of home. "Abuela wants to know if you're coming to dinner." "Wouldn't miss it." "She's making tamales, the good ones." "Then I definitely wouldn't miss it." They stood together watching Rosa and Titan play in the fading light. 3 years ago, Jackson had been driving through Crescent Bay on his way to watch his mother die. He'd stopped for coffee. He'd witnessed an assault, and his entire life had changed. His mother had passed 6 months after the Whitmore trial, peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by the family she'd always wanted for her son. Lily had been there. Rosa had held her hand. Even Titan had lain at the foot of her bed, keeping watch until the end. "She would have loved this," Jackson had said at the funeral. "She did love it," Lily had replied. "She got to see you happy. That's all any mother wants." Now, standing in the home he'd built with the family he'd never expected to find, Jackson understood what she meant. "The town council called today," Lily said, interrupting his thoughts. "What did they want?" "They want to rename the diner. The Coastal Light is officially becoming Stone's Diner." Jackson stared at her. "What?" "The whole town voted. They want to honor what you did." "I don't need a diner named after me." "It's not about what you need. It's about what you deserve." Lily smiled. "Besides, Gloria threatened to quit if they didn't do it. Said she's been cooking in that kitchen for 35 years, and she'll be damned if it's not named after a real hero." "Gloria terrifies me." "She terrifies everyone. That's why she's the best." Rosa came running back, Titan limping beside her, both of them panting. "Daddy, can we get a puppy?" "You have a dog." "Titan's not a puppy. He's old." Titan gave Rosa a look of profound offense. "He's not that old," Jackson said. "He's distinguished." "What's distinguished?" "It means handsome and experienced." Rosa considered this. "Can we get a distinguished puppy?" Lily laughed, and the sound was like music. 3 years ago, Jackson couldn't remember the last time he'd heard her laugh. Now it happened every day. "Come on, you two. Dinner's ready." They walked inside together, the soldier, the waitress, the little girl with the healed heart, and the dog who had saved them all. Martha was already at the table, her wheelchair positioned at her usual spot, her hands folded in prayer. "Finally, my tamales are getting cold." "Sorry, Abuela." Titan was showing off. "That dog, always the performer." Titan padded to Martha's side and rested his head on her lap. She stroked his ears, her weathered hands gentle. "He's a good boy, the best boy." "Don't tell him that. It'll go to his head." They sat down to eat, the 5 of them, crowded around a table that had seen too many tears and was finally learning what joy looked like. "I have news," Rosa announced, her mouth full of tamale. "Don't talk with your mouth full." Rosa swallowed dramatically. "I have news." "What news?" "I got an A on my science project." "That's wonderful, baby." "Mrs. Patterson said it was the best one in the whole class. She's going to put it in the display case." Jackson felt a surge of pride that surprised him with its intensity. 3 years ago, this little girl had been dying. Now she was thriving, top of her class, healthy, happy, with a future that stretched endlessly before her. "What was your project about?" "Dogs." Rosa beamed. "I wrote about how dogs help people, like soldiers, and sick people, and sad people. She looked at Titan. I wrote about Titan. Did you mention how he snores? Daddy. That's not scientific. It's very scientific. I have data. 3 years of data. Lily was laughing again, and Martha was shaking her head, and Rosa was defending Titan's honor with the passion of an 8-year-old who loved her dog more than anything in the world. This, Jackson thought. This is what I was fighting for all along. The phone rang after dinner. Lily answered, her face shifting from relaxed to tense in seconds. Yes, this is she. A pause. When? Another pause longer. I understand. Thank you for calling. She hung up her hand, trembling. Lily, what is it? That was the prison. Her voice was flat. Preston Whitmore died last night. Heart attack in his cell. Jackson absorbed the news. Preston, the man who had started it all, who had slammed Lily's face into that table, who had tried to destroy them. Dead at 30. How do you feel? I don't know. Lily sat down heavily. I thought I'd feel something. Relief maybe, or vindication. But I just feel empty. That's normal. Is it? He ruined so many lives. He tried to ruin ours. And now he's gone and I don't feel anything. Jackson took her hand. You've moved on. That's why you don't feel anything. Preston Whitmore stopped mattering to you a long time ago. But shouldn't I be glad? Shouldn't I be celebrating? Why, he's not your enemy anymore. He's just a memory. A bad dream from a different life. Martha rolled her wheelchair to the table, her face thoughtful. In my experience, the best revenge is living well. You have a husband who loves you, a daughter who's healthy, a home full of laughter. She smiled. That's more than Preston Whitmore ever had, even with all his money. That's the victory that matters. Lily wiped her eyes. Abuela's right. She's always right. I know. It's very annoying. Rosa appeared in the doorway, her face worried. Mama, why are you crying? I'm not crying, baby. I just got some news. Bad news. Lily looked at Jackson, at Martha, at the life they'd built together. No, not bad news. Just news that reminded me how lucky we are. Rosa seemed to accept this. Can Titan sleep in my room tonight? Titan sleeps wherever he wants. Then I want him to want to sleep in my room. Nice try. Rosa retreated, Titan padding after her, and Lily let out a breath that seemed to carry years of tension with it. It's really over, isn't it? The Whitmores, the fear, all of it. It's been over for a long time, Jackson said. We just didn't know it. The next morning brought a visitor. Tom Henderson appeared at the door, his face grave. Jackson, we need to talk. About what? There's trouble at the docks. Some new people moved in. They're saying they represent business interests from Portland. They're pressuring the fishermen to pay for protection. Jackson felt something cold settle in his gut. He'd seen this before. Different town, different players, same playbook. How long has this been going on? Started about a month ago. Nobody wanted to bother you. You've done enough for this town. But last night they beat up Miguel Rodriguez, put him in the hospital. Where are they operating from? The old cannery, the one the Whitmores used to own. Jackson looked at Lily, who had appeared in the hallway. Go, she said. Do what you do. Lily, this town is your home now. These people are your people. She smiled, but there was steel in her eyes. And I didn't fall in love with a man who looks the other way when bullies hurt the innocent. Jackson kissed her forehead. I'll be back for dinner. You'd better be. Gloria's making her famous fish tacos. He called Rodriguez the same Rodriguez who had helped take down the Whitmores 3 years ago. His old teammate was retired now, living in San Diego, but he picked up on the second ring. Let me guess. Trouble in paradise. Something like that. Feel like taking a road trip. I'll be there in 6 hours. Jackson spent the morning gathering information. The new operation was small, a handful of men trying to establish a foothold in a town that had once been ruled by corruption. They'd chosen Crescent Bay because they thought it was soft. They thought the people here had no one to protect them. They were wrong. By afternoon, Rodriguez had arrived. Chen and Williams followed an hour later. The old team back together, sitting around Martha's kitchen table, like they were planning another operation in hostile territory. "What's the play, Commander?" Jackson spread out the information he'd gathered, names, locations, patterns. These guys are amateurs. They're using Whitmore's old playbook because it's the only one they know. They think fear is enough. So we show them it's not. We show them that Crescent Bay protects its own now, that there are consequences for hurting innocent people. What do you need from us? Jackson looked at his team, these men who had followed him through war zones and criminal takedowns and everything in between. I need you to help me send a message. The confrontation happened that evening. Jackson walked into the old cannery alone, or at least that's what it looked like. The men inside were expecting trouble. They'd heard about the Navy SEAL who had brought down the Whitmores. But they'd also heard he'd gone soft, settled down, become a family man. They were wrong about that too. I'm looking for whoever's in charge. A man emerged from the shadows, mid-30s, well-dressed, with the arrogant smile of someone who thought money and muscle made him untouchable. That would be me, and you must be the famous Jackson Stone. Famous? Everyone in certain circles knows your name. The man who destroyed the Whitmore operation. The man who took on a cartel and won. The man spread his hands. I'm not here to fight you, Stone. I'm here to do business. Your business put a man in the hospital. An unfortunate misunderstanding. Sometimes messages get delivered too, enthusiastically. Here's a message for you. Jackson stepped closer. Crescent Bay is off limits. The fishermen, the shop owners, everyone in this town, they're under my protection. You and your people have 24 hours to leave. After that, things get complicated. The man laughed. You think you can threaten me? I have resources, connections, men who... A sound from behind him. He spun to find Rodriguez and Chen emerging from the shadows, having slipped in through a back entrance. Williams appeared at another door, and outside through the grimy windows he could see the lights of a dozen vehicles, townspeople who had gathered when word spread that Jackson Stone was taking on the new threat. Tom Henderson. Gloria from the diner. The fisherman who had once been too afraid to speak. All of them standing together. You have men, Jackson said quietly. I have a community. Do you really want to test which one is stronger? The arrogance faded from the man's face. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Jackson smiled, but there was no warmth in it. 24 hours. Then we start having a different kind of conversation. The operation cleared out by morning. Jackson watched the last vehicle leave from the porch of his house tighten at his feet, Lily's hand in his. You did it again. We did it. The whole town. He looked at her. That's the difference between now and 3 years ago. Back then, everyone was too scared to stand up. Now they know they don't have to face threats alone. Because of you. Because of all of us. He pulled her close. I just showed them what was possible. They did the rest. Rosa appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas. Daddy, can we have pancakes? It's Tuesday. So, pancakes are for weekends. But you're a hero. Heroes should have pancakes whenever they want. Jackson laughed, a real laugh, the kind that came from deep in his chest. Hard to argue with that logic. I know, I'm very logical. You're very something. They went inside together, and Jackson made pancakes while Rosa set the table, and Lily helped Martha to her chair. Titan lay by the door, keeping watch like always, even though the threats were gone and the morning was peaceful. This was his life now. Not the adrenaline of combat, not the loneliness of a soldier without a war, but something quieter, something better, something worth fighting for. The wedding was held on a Saturday in June. It was the kind of wedding Crescent Bay had never seen, not because it was elaborate, but because it was real. The whole town turned out, crowding into the little church where Martha had been married 50 years ago, spilling out onto the lawn, filling the streets with love and celebration. Jackson stood at the altar in his dress blues medals gleaming titan, sitting at attention beside him. His best man was Rodriguez. His groomsmen were Chen and Williams. Behind them, in a place of honor, was a photograph of the men they'd lost in Afghanistan, brothers who couldn't be there, but whose memory lived on. The music started, and everyone turned. Lily appeared at the end of the aisle, Rosa walking before her as flower girl Martha rolling alongside in her wheelchair. She wore a simple white dress, nothing like the expensive gowns in the magazines, but perfect for who she was. Jackson's breath caught. "You're beautiful." Lily smiled through her tears. "You clean up pretty good yourself, sailor." The ceremony was simple, the vows heartfelt. When the minister asked if anyone objected, Titan barked once, and the whole church laughed. "I think that's approval," Jackson said. "It better be. He's the ring bearer." "Why?" They exchanged rings, simple bands, nothing fancy, but engraved on the inside, with words that meant everything, found in the storm. "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Jackson kissed Lily, and the church erupted in cheers. Rosa jumped up and down, Titan barked triumphantly, and Martha wiped tears from her weathered cheeks. "I never thought I'd see this day," she whispered. "Thank you, God. Thank you for bringing him to us." The reception was held at the Diner Stone's Diner, now officially renamed with a new sign that Gloria had commissioned herself. The whole town danced and ate and celebrated the kind of community gathering that had been impossible under Whitmore rule, but was now becoming a regular occurrence. Speech, speech. Jackson stood reluctantly, Lily's hand in his. "I'm not good at speeches." "Do it anyway." He took a breath. 3 years ago, I drove into this town looking for a cup of coffee. I was broken, lost. I'd just watched my brothers die and I didn't know why I was still alive. The room went quiet. Then I walked into a diner and saw something that changed everything. I saw a woman being hurt, and I saw a town too afraid to help her, and something inside me snapped. He looked at Lily. "I didn't save you that day. You saved me. You gave me a reason to fight again. A reason to believe that the things I'd learned, the skills I'd developed, they could be used for something good." His voice cracked, but he pushed through. "And this town, you all saved me too. You showed me what community looks like, what family looks like, what home feels like." He raised his glass. "To Crescent Bay, to second chances, to the people who refuse to look away when others are suffering." Everyone raised their glasses. To Crescent Bay. The party lasted until midnight. When it was over, Jackson and Lily walked home through quiet streets, Rosa sleeping in Jackson's arms, Titan padding beside them. "Happy?" Lily asked. "More than I ever thought possible." "Me too." She leaned into him. "You know what I keep thinking about?" "What?" "That day at the diner, when Preston grabbed my hair." She shuddered slightly. "I thought I was going to die. I thought that was it, the end of everything. But it wasn't. It wasn't, because you walked in." She looked up at him. "Do you believe in fate, Jackson?" "I believe in choices. I believe that every day we choose who we're going to be." He shifted Rosa's sleeping weight. "I chose to stop that day. You chose to fight back. And because of those choices, we're here. Together. Together." They reached the house, and Jackson carried Rosa to her bed. Titan jumped onto his usual spot at her feet, circling twice before settling down. "Good night, sweetheart," Jackson whispered. "Night, Daddy." Rosa's voice was drowsy. "I'm glad you came to the diner that day." "Me too, baby. Me too." He joined Lily in their bedroom, and they lay together in the darkness, listening to the sounds of the house, Martha's gentle snoring from down the hall, Titan's occasional dream bark, the creak of old wood settling. "I love you," Lily said. I love you too. Promise me something. Anything. Promise me this is real, that it won't disappear, that I'm not going to wake up and find out it was all a dream. Jackson pulled her close. It's real. I promise. And I'm not going anywhere. She fell asleep in his arms, and Jackson lay awake for a while thinking about the journey that had brought him here. The pain, the loss, the moments of despair when he'd wondered if life was worth living. And now this. A wife who loved him. A daughter who called him daddy. A home full of laughter and warmth and hope. It wasn't what he'd planned. It wasn't what he'd expected. But it was everything he'd ever needed. 5 years later, Rosa Martinez Stone graduated from middle school with honors, the valedictorian of her class. She gave a speech about courage, about the importance of standing up for others even when it was hard. My dad taught me that heroes don't wear capes. She said, her voice strong and clear. They wear uniforms. They work at diners. They sit in wheelchairs and tell stories about marching for justice. They have 4 legs and gray muzzles and still try to catch balls even when their hips hurt. The audience laughed through their tears. My dad walked into a diner 8 years ago and saw someone in trouble. He could have looked away. Most people did. But he didn't. He stopped. He helped. He stayed. She looked at Jackson, who was sitting in the front row with Lily. That's what heroes do. They stop. They help. They stay. She smiled. So be a hero. Find someone who needs you. And don't walk away. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, they gathered at Stone's diner for the celebration. Gloria, now 70, but still running the kitchen with an iron fist, had made enough food for an army. To Rosa, Tom Henderson raised his glass. The smartest kid to ever come out of Crescent Bay. The bravest, someone else added. The loudest, Rosa's best friend shouted, and everyone laughed. Jackson watched his daughter accept congratulations from what seemed like half the town. 8 years ago, she'd been a sick little girl with a failing heart. Now she was a force of nature, confident, compassionate, absolutely certain that she could change the world. And maybe she could. Maybe she would. Titan lay at his feet, as always. The dog was 15 now, ancient for a German shepherd, especially one who had survived what Titan had survived. His hips were shot, his eyes were clouded, but he still perked up whenever Rosa walked by, still tried to follow her everywhere, still kept watch over the family he loved. He's tired, Lily said softly. I know. The vet said, I know. They sat in silence, watching their daughter celebrate, knowing that time was running out for the dog who had made it all possible. He's happy, Lily said finally. That's what matters. Yeah. Jackson's voice was rough. He's happy. The end came on a Thursday. Jackson woke to find Titan lying in his usual spot by the bed, but something was different. The dog's breathing was shallow, his eyes half open, his tail still. Titan. The tail moved once weakly. Jackson slid out of bed and knelt beside his old friend. Titan's eyes found his, and something passed between them, a lifetime of memories of battles fought and won, of a bond that transcended words. It's okay, buddy. You can rest now. Titan's tail moved again. His eyes closed. You saved my life. So many times. You saved Lily. You saved Rosa. You saved this whole town. Jackson's voice broke. You're the best dog who ever lived. The best partner. The best friend. He stayed there stroking Titan's fur until the breathing stopped. Lily found him an hour later, still kneeling, still holding onto the dog who had given him everything. Oh, Jackson. She knelt beside him, her arms wrapping around them both. He waited, Jackson whispered. He waited until Rosa graduated, until he knew she was going to be okay. That's who he was. He always put us first. They buried Titan on the hill behind the house in a spot where the sun always shone, and the view stretched all the way to the ocean. The whole town came to pay their respects, fishermen and shop owners, teachers and children, everyone who had been touched by the dog who had helped save their community. Rosa placed a ball on the grave, the same ball Titan had caught on that last perfect day. "Thank you, Titan," she said, her voice steady, despite the tears on her cheeks. "For protecting us, for loving us, for being the best dog in the whole world." Jackson couldn't speak. He just stood there, Lily on one side and Rosa on the other, looking at the grave of his best friend. That night, after everyone had gone home, he returned to the hill alone. He sat beside the grave watching the stars come out, thinking about the day he'd driven into Crescent Bay, about the diner, about the moment when everything changed. "I never told you this," he said quietly, "but when I was driving up that mountain, I was thinking about ending it. About just driving off a cliff, disappearing." He paused, his voice thick. "Then you barked. Do you remember? You barked, and I looked over, and you were staring out the window like you'd seen something important. So I kept driving, and I found the diner, and I found Lily, and I found everything." The wind stirred the grass on Titan's grave. "You saved me, buddy, before I saved anyone else. You saved me first." Jackson wiped his eyes. "So thank you, for not letting me give up, for showing me what courage looks like, for teaching me that even broken things can be put back together." He stood slowly, his joints aching, his heart full. "I'll see you again someday. And when I do, we'll run together. No limps, no pain, just running forever." He walked back to the house, to the family waiting for him, to the life Titan had helped him build. The next morning, Rosa found her father on the porch watching the sunrise. "Daddy, are you okay?" Jackson pulled her close. "Yeah, sweetheart, I'm okay. I miss him." "Me too. I'll miss him forever. But he's not really gone, right? He's just somewhere else." Jackson thought about this, about faith and loss, and the things we believe because we have to. "He's right here," he said, touching Rosa's chest. "In your heart, where he'll always be." Rosa nodded slowly. "Daddy, yeah. I want to be like you when I grow up. I want to help people." "You already do, sweetheart, every day. But I mean really help, like you did, like Titan did." Jackson looked at his daughter, this miracle he'd never expected, this gift from a universe he didn't always understand. "Then do it," he said. "Find people who need you. Stand up for them. Don't walk away. Even when it's scary. Especially when it's scary. That's when it matters most." Rosa hugged him tight. "I love you, Daddy. I love you too, sweetheart. More than anything." They sat together watching the sun rise over Crescent Bay, over the town that had been transformed by courage and love, and the refusal to look away. Jackson thought about the journey that had brought him here. The war. The loss. The moment when a rich bully slammed a waitress's face into a table, and a broken soldier decided to stop. He thought about Lily still sleeping inside the woman who had given him a reason to live. He thought about Titan, resting on the hill, the dog who had taught him what loyalty really meant. And he thought about the future, about Rosa growing up, about the battles still to come, about the endless work of building a world where people helped each other instead of hurting each other. It wasn't over. It would never be over. There would always be bullies, always be victims, always be moments when someone had to choose between walking away and standing up. But that was okay. Because now Jackson knew the truth. One person could make a difference. One choice could change everything. One moment of courage could ripple outward forever, touching lives that would never know where it started. He had walked into a diner looking for coffee and found a purpose. He had stopped a bully and discovered a family. He had saved a stranger and learned how to save himself. And now, sitting on his porch with his daughter beside him, watching the town he loved wake up to another day. Jackson Stone finally understood what it meant to be home. not a place, not a building, not a town. Home was the people you loved, the battles you fought for them, the courage to stay when leaving would be easier. Home was Rose's laughter and Lily's smile, and the memory of a gray-muzzled dog who never gave up. Home was here. Home was now. Home was everything. And Jackson Stone, the Navy SEAL, who had found his heart in a diner, would protect it until his very last breath. Because that's what heroes do. They stop, they help, they stay. And love, real love, the kind that survives fire and fear, and everything in between, never walks away. The end. Bah. If this story of courage and redemption touched your heart, please share it with your friends and family. Let's spread the message that kindness is not weakness, and that heroes walk among us every day. May God bless you and keep you. May He be your shield in times of trouble and your light in the darkness. May He grant you the strength of a warrior and the heart of a servant. If you believe that justice will always prevail and that love conquers all, type Amen in the comments below. God bless you all, and thank you for watching.